Coming up, folks, in about 8 minutes' time, Daily Chaos with Brian Tseng from Full Disclosure Now and me.
Don't have fights. Don't tackle hard problems. Get ready for bed. Right, level 4 is to eat early. I know this because I tried. Found that I slept the best with filtered food and my last meal of the day at 11 a.m. Now that may sound early to you.
This is copyright free, Facebook. Yeah, coming up, folks, in about 6 minutes, or after the promos on Revolution Radio at the top of the hour. Daily Chaos. Hey, shout out to the folks on UNN. Hey, Unity, God bless you. Sorry I wasn't about last week. I had some roadworks. It was an absolute nightmare around here. Very, very noisy. Big cheers to Simon for sorting that out, for standing in. Appreciate that. God bless you. And hey, Mark Patrick Conway. Hello, mate. God bless you. We're talking disclosure tonight. Disclosure, UFO disclosure, alien disclosure, ET disclosure, that sort of stuff. Brian Tseng coming up in a few minutes' time. And is it going to be used, the whole thing, as another means to, I don't know, Project Fear, control, another COVID type thing? Is it going to be used to create chaos? That sort of stuff. Anyway, there you go. Copyright free music. If you're watching a pre-record, then guess what? Flick forward a few minutes. Yeah. Lil Ace Angel, you just have to be patient, darling. Oh yeah, another shout out while I remember it to Jackie Devoy. God bless you. Was on her show on Unity the other day, last Friday. It was really good fun. It was lovely having a chat with her. It was really nice to be on the other side of the fence. But I'll tell you what though, I do prefer to ask questions because it's a lot easier than coming up with the answers. Yeah, I don't know, a few minutes, something like that. Right. Should be patched into Rev Radio. Is that Rev Radio in the background? Yeah, sounds like it. Coming up in about, I don't know, 90 seconds or something after the promos on Revolution Radio, folks. So I suppose I better turn that music down, because otherwise the promos won't be heard at all.
We talk about decentralization and Bitcoin, Litecoin, Litecoin.
Hey Rev Radio, hey Unity News. God bless you, all of you.
Eastern Studio A.
I'll tell you, these promos are long-winded though, blimey.
Deep understanding must arise during these times of unparalleled deceit.
Yeah.
A view in the depths of society on...
This bloke sounds like the guy out of The Matrix. The baddie.
A storm brews upon the horizon.
Yeah, there's a storm.
It's been said that those that have the eyes to see and the ears to hear will play a paramount role in the furthering of humanity and civilized society.
That's right.
But can civilized society and humanity survive the coming conflicts?
Don't know, mate. Probably not.
Not seen since a dawn of
Well, there we
time.
go. What's that?
Bypassed.
That's Platoon he's got in the
You
background.
can find
That was a good
true
movie.
forms of information and knowledge in abundance at revolution.radio.
During a zombie
Freedomslips.com.
apocalypse, we're not going to be caught empty-handed.
Supported
That's
radio
right, Brian.
station.
God bless you. You didn't voice this, did you?
Stand upon the right side
Didn't what?
of history.
You didn't voice this.
Oh,
You
this
know the-
voiceover here? No, but I love it.
I won't let you down. I won't let you down, son.
We won't let you down. We
The
won't.
opinions expressed on this radio station, its
his
programs,
fault.
and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return
That's
you
right.
to
God bless
your
you.
host.
Right. Is that it? Can we start now? Is that it? Can we get on with it? Oh. Hold on. Right. Hey folks. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good people. And welcome to the Daily Chaos. The show ain't daily, but the chaos is. I'm Ollie Connolly. Thanks for turning up. On Revolution Radio and Unity News, God bless you. Or you might be on Facebook, you shouldn't be. You're not on YouTube because I got banned or kicked off. Right, yeah, tonight. Now, disclosure. E.T. Truther, Brian Tseng, who runs Full Disclosure Now, gives an update on the pace of such, its relevance, and how disclosure might be used as yet another means of control through chaos, panic, and fear. Because isn't that what they do? That's what they do. Right, okay, it always carries on, and it's kind of a bit annoying because my guests can't even hear it. Brian, how are you, sir?
I'm excellent, Ollie. Thank you so much for having me on today, and all our listeners, past, present, and future, love you.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. I thought you'd lose the will to live with that prolonged introduction, promos, and all the rest of it that you couldn't even hear. Right. So you run this thing. Full disclosure now. This is something that I've been keen to, sort of get into for a while to see what's going on, a bit of an update, because it kind of seems like in the last 2 or 3 years, there's been a bit more impetus, not least of all from some national governments towards alien ET UFO disclosure. Where are we with all that?
Okay, so the real disclosure is going to always be from the bottom up, from the masses clamoring and pushing and calling for disclosure from the government agencies and the whistleblowers. Because when you really talk about the nature of disclosure and the knowledge to be disclosed, the reason why we call it full disclosure now is because the disclosure part, that's like the Buck Rogers stuff, laser beams and spaceships and ETs. And that's great. Don't get me wrong. We all love that. That's what we're here for. But there's also
They didn't in Maui. They didn't in Maui.
Right.
We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. Please carry on.
Okay. Right. So these rogue forces have been using these awesome, amazing technologies against us. And at the same time, they've been abusing little people, not just for things like blood products. I don't know how much I can say on what platforms, but I'm sure anyone who uses
it's all right. You can say anything you like,
chrome,
because anything that was going to can Daily Chaos
right? So
already has.
The adrenochrome harvesting, and lots of documents are coming out about that. And we're in the post Seth Rich days when he leaked all the DNC, Democratic National Committee documents to WikiLeaks, and of course they're trying to throw the book at poor Julian Assange and scapegoat him and make him really the subject instead of what was really revealed in all those emails, servers full, right?
Yeah.
And so
trying to make an example of them.
The survivors of these programs are coming out of the woodwork. I think because many of these deep state elements are going bankrupt themselves. They're being rounded up, brought to justice. Their henchmen may be now turning upon them, depending on what news sources we're going by. And at the same time, more and more information is coming out as people who are in these programs. Many of these people are called military abductees, MILABs, in military abduction programs, to basically, in effect, harvest young people, if not for blood products like adrenochrome, or for the ritual purposes or cannibalism. And I'm sorry, I'm going to go there because we have to. That's the full part. They've been finding young people in particular who have psychic abilities and utilizing them in all sorts of nefarious programs. But really, it's all about putting everyone,
harvesting
all of us,
spirit
onto a negative timeline.
Is that kind of like spirit harvesting?
So spirit harvesting is part of it.
Or
that's
energy
part. Loosh harvesting, that's a big part of it. Because at the end of the day, the Earth is a giant slave farm where we are being harvested for loosh at the spiritual and emotional, astral levels, energetic levels, and then also literally at the physical, slavery or even cannibalism or eating or blood products again. But it's all the same. It's all harvesting positive energy for their own nefarious purposes. And this is where things like the Mandela effect comes from, because basically the government, among these programs, they were running what's popularly known as the Montauk Project. The code name was really apparently Project Phoenix. And this is where they were strapping kids into something known as a Montauk trip chair, which was a UFO pilot chair recovered from one of the Roswell crash sites. There were at least 3, because that one craft ended up skipping around a little bit, being shot out of our atmosphere by dark fleet elements. And that's a whole nother story. Needless to say, our government, the U.S. government, acquired this chair. They brought it over to Montauk, east end of Long Island, at the Camp Hero decommissioned Army base post World War II. And they began the series of experiments and quote unquote adventures in time and space, as a whitewashed version goes. But really, they did horrific abuse of these children to even first figure out how to open up portals in time and space by strapping them into this trip chair. Many did not survive. And then, as depicted in the TV show Stranger Things, many more kids got sent to very nasty places or sent on nasty missions, and many of them didn't survive those missions or come back as well.
Hold on a
And
sec.
these,
Hold on a
yeah,
sec. Hold on. Okay,
okay.
Montauk Project, that refers to the place where these experiments were conducted. What's a trip chair?
So the Montauk trip chair. So right now I'm sharing my screen, and so this is there's some articles here, right? Stranger Things in the Hamptons, the story of the Montauk Project.
Okay.
So the
Hold
idea of
on.
the trip chair was
Yeah.
these UFO craft, and this is revealed in a lot of these, top secret but now revealed documents, are not controlled by like a stick and rudder. Okay, they're utterly telepathically controlled. Okay, for this the apparently from the perception of the pilot, when you fly one of these UFO advanced craft, you literally merge telepathically with the vehicle. Okay. And with the human reverse engineered TR3B triangles, what they had to do was they had to figure out how to like incorporate.
What happened there? SolarBee? Yeah. Oh, he's just muted himself. How did he do that? I'll ask him to unmute. Come on, Brian. Unmute.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Right now, I'm pulling up the TR3B just so people see what I'm talking about. These black triangle craft, many
Right.
with like the lights at the bottom.
Yeah.
And these are reverse engineered from UFOs, like what crashed at Roswell. Among the things recovered from that was the Roswell was the trip chair, known as what became known as a Montauk trip chair, because they took one of the pilot seats from this UFO over to Long Island, New York. Okay.
Yeah.
Here, let me see if I have a map here.
To Montauk.
Which is, yes. So if you
Where
look
there's
at
an
New
army
York
base.
State, everyone in our audience, I'm sure, is going to be familiar with the city of New York. Okay. But once you get away from Manhattan and all that, okay, there's this huge part of New York sticking out like 100+ miles called Long Island. And this
Right.
is really beautiful land. It was stolen from the Montauk Indians, the various tribes, kind of like for beads and whiskey and at the point of a rifle at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah.
And you've got this place here called Brookhaven National Labs. Okay. And so if you watch a TV show, Stranger Things, when they depict that Department of Energy laboratory where they're taking the kids at 11 and 7 and number 1 and creating the portal to the upside down, that's really they're depicting through disclosure Brookhaven National Laboratories. Okay. And really this goes back to something called the Philadelphia experiment in World War II. Many of your viewers, I'm sure, are familiar with Nikola Tesla. Okay, Nikola Tesla, he had the Tesla generator technology had promises of doing things like being able to generate free energy. And that's where you get the Wardenclyffe Tower. Okay. But also the U.S. Army or Navy, my pardon, they took something called the USS Eldridge. It was a destroyer class ship. Here it is, depicted right here. They put a Tesla generator, one at each end of the ship, fired it up. And not only did the ship achieve radar invisibility, that was their stated purpose for the experiment, it actually ripped a hole in time and space. And that's where you get movies such as the Philadelphia Experiment, which depicts this. And it was not a good experience for the sailors on board, because while they were kind of in what you call subspace, they were able to merge with the ship, the hull of the ship, go in and out of the ship.
Yeah.
And when they came back out of subspace, when they cut these generators, um, some of them were still fused into the ship. And that's where you get this photo. I've been told
So
by
you're
legit
saying
sources
that
that
what
this is
basically we
real.
saw in the movie, the
And
Philadelphia experiment, was real.
yes, this happened. Yes, that's what they're depicting. That's why there's so many movies. The Philadelphia experiment, the Philadelphia Project. This why it's depicted so many places is because it was real. Okay, because the Nazis had already caught on to this technology because this is where you had the Vril Society, and they were getting messages channeled to them telepathically by through the Vril Society and Maria Orsich. Okay, from ETs, they're called Nordics from Aldebaran. They're the Scandinavian looking ones. And that's where you get Operation High Jump in 1947, where the US Navy sent a whole carrier group to Antarctica.
Huh.
They said it was a research expedition. Well, none of the ships came back, like only like one basically made
Really?
it back from that research expedition. It's
Really?
because they got shot to hell, quote unquote. And that was
When was
that
that?
led to the US
1947.
military experimenting on their own, saying
Was
we
that
got to
19
catch up to the so-called
say that
space
was-
Nazis.
So you say that was 47 when they sent that task force?
I believe Operation High Jump is all off memory, so don't crucify me if I'm wrong, people. But I believe the Philadelphia experiment was 43. Official end of World War II is 1945. That's where you had Operation Paperclip and the rat lines, where they were bringing the Nazis, particularly the scientists and military
Yeah.
intelligence
Do you-
personnel, to the
do you
US
think-
and Latin America and
Do you think-
Australia,
Do you think
etc.
there's any truth in the Nazis having migrated senior members of the party or what have you to the Antarctica? Or is that just nonsense?
Yes. So some made it to Antarctica. That was New Schwabenland. Others made it to places like Argentina, including Hitler,
Yeah.
is my understanding, where he died in 1968 after injuries from a car accident. And that's exactly why you have the film Boys from Brazil
Yeah.
depicting a Nazi
Gregory
colony
Peck.
trying to make
Very
Hitler
good.
clones right there. And it's like they couldn't be any more obvious, but it's so, I know, if you talked to me pre 2009-11, this would have been like, you're pulling my leg, mate.
Okay, hold on, Brun. Exactly right. You pulled the question out of my mouth because I mean we've kind of gone around the houses here for the last 10 or so minutes, but I thought, well, where do you start and where do you go with this? And so it's kind of a good intro, but it is time to qualify yourself, and then we'll get into some of the nitty gritty. But please, how did you get into this? Because to a lot of people out there, well, I think probably to most of the folks that are watching this show, sadly, because we're all so damn well herded in social media land or whatever, they are pretty much aware of this. But the average person, the average Joe, you talk about any of this stuff with, and they'll be going like, what? Like submarines to Argentina and stuff like that, whatever. How did you get into it? What qualifies you to be able to talk about this stuff as eloquently as you do?
So what happened was during the COVID scamdemic, and I can go into my history here. I've got it pulled up a little bit on the screen. I kind of shouted to the rafters, don't take the bioweapon jabs. Do not roll up your sleeves, please, God, and especially not your children and your grandchildren. And Facebook decided to ban me for false information, which of course all of this and then some is coming out as true, right? The AstraZeneca being recalled for blood clots. Well, I was saying this 5 years ago, right? Or however long. And they banned me for that. And when they did that, they cut off my Facebook account, which had like, my whole life history, all my friends going back to my first girlfriend, and it really, really depressed me. So when I got after a year and a half back into the Facebook community, I started up a new account. I joined the sword collector community. That's why you see a sword behind me as well, among other things.
Yeah.
And I also joined.
It looks like a torture chamber.
No,
Seriously.
no. More of it.
What have you got
a
there? You're
prepper,
into
martial arts
S&M or something?
set up with any gear ready to go.
Kinky.
I used to go to the Burning Man festival as well. We live 80 miles away from the desert there in High
That
Mountain
looks like
Desert, 'cause
Bohemian
I'm a
Grove
prepper.
stuff behind you.
Well, Bohemian Grove, I lived in San Francisco for 20 years. Bohemian Grove is north of San Francisco in the redwood groves, and that's got a sinister history. But really, if you want to get into it, that's kind of where all this comes back to is um, I
So,
joined the ET community
but
when I restarted.
you got into this before
Back,
COVID. You've got more
well,
experience.
I've always been an X-Files fan. I got to be a background extra once when I lived in LA for 7 years, where I went to Occidental College to get my biochemistry degree and a minor in economics. And I have always been a conspiracy theorist. I've always been the black sheep, or as I say, the lion
You've
in
been
the
a critical
family.
thinker. I think
The
is
critical.
more
Thank you,
appropriate.
sir.
No, yeah.
Yes.
You're just
And
surmising there.
so I've always known there was more, and I've always known I wanted to help. And
Yeah.
when I joined the ET Experiencer community through friends like Sean Bond on Facebook, who's very well connected to the people who survived these programs, people who've been abducted by the military or ETs or both,
Mhm.
okay, that I realized quickly that these people are real. And some of them were organizing last year something known as a Montauk Adventure Tour to mark the 80th anniversary of the 1943 Philadelphia experiment. Last
Hmm.
year was 2023. August 12th was when they fired up those Tesla generators on the USS Eldridge.
Hmm.
And I found out about it, and I jumped in to help organize it and lend my some funds and my reputation. And we had about 23 or so, many of them Montauk survivors, right there for 5 days at Long Island, New York, in two different Airbnbs. And we'd meet up at the one and go tour the area, the barracks at Camp Hero. And so here I'll share my screen again. And when we did this, I had my 8 years of community organizing experience come into play, marching around is Montauk, this east end of Long Island. Okay, this used to be a sleepy fishing village,
Hmm.
but it also had this army base, this Camp Hero State Park, and then this is where you see the pictures of that ominous Sage radar tower.
Yeah.
Okay, and this Sage radar tower, part of the experiments they were used doing was experiments in psychotronic warfare, beaming people of high levels of frequency, sound, energy, radio, light, you name it, while
Mhm.
on acid, other drugs, altered states after being abused, MK ultra. And they're using this now in 5G tower technology. Okay, so it's in our pockets these days and it's surrounding us. So why is it
Mind
pertinent?
control via uh, microwaves.
Yes, exactly. So this is entirely pertinent. And so, I got involved in the Montauk Adventure Tour, and we were there marching around Camp Hero, and I'm listening to the survivors of this project. It was known as Project Phoenix, really, or one of the official names, not the Montauk Project. That's the popular name. The
Hmm.
code name apparently was the Phoenix Project.
Mhm.
And I'm listening to survivors have terrible recollections, mostly terrible, some beautiful.
So
And
okay,
they were not lying.
okay. So basically, what you're saying is that U.S. base was being used for boys from Brazil stuff.
Well, Boys from Brazil is more cloning, and
Okay,
cloning
but
is more, of course.
extreme experimentation,
Oh,
altering
this is
the
more extreme. This is more extreme. I put cloning. I mean, cloning's like here, but once you get to like time travel, consciousness transfer,
yeah,
alternate
yeah,
dimensions,
yeah.
summoning stuff
Okay,
like from
okay.
nothing using this chair and huge amounts of power,
So
that's a whole
Brian,
nother category for me.
this is this is what a lot of people will say about this. Pete Buster here says you never heard such bollocks until the internet appeared. Money to be made making up crap. What would you say to Pete Buster? Because I mean, it's not an unfair reaction, is it?
Well, what I would say to Buster is that's a defensive reaction to someone who doesn't want to have to face the cold, hard reality. And I'd say that that's a very, to Busters out there, very dangerous
Okay,
because if
let
you
me ask you
refuse,
another
well,
way,
here, hold on a sec, real quick, let me
Brian.
finish.
Okay, sorry, go
If
on.
you refuse, if you refuse to at
Hmm.
least give yourself the intellectual freedom and the
Yeah,
investigative freedom
yeah,
to consider these possibilities,
yeah.
then you exactly are lining yourself up to get jab number. Which jab number are you on, Buster? Five, right? I mean, not to be insulting, but my
Hey,
father just
but yeah,
died last November
that's
from the
kind of
clot
mixing
shots.
topics as well. He might have a different view on that, and probably does. I don't know, but
They're intertwined. It's not like they're separate.
Hey, look, I agree with you, Brian. That's why I do the show, because I'm inquisitive. But I also say I don't know. So, for example, the psychotic experimentation and what have you at this base, what kind of evidence is there? Where's it come from? The knowledge that you have about these experiments.
Okay, so then in addition to the eyewitness testimony of people here, shameless plug, Buster, I'm sure you'll appreciate that. For my conference in July, like Penny Bradley was part of this program. Daryl James was part of the secret space program via the U.S. Navy.
Right.
There are people who are remote viewing this blind scientific remote viewing, known as the Farsight Institute, right here. Yeme Genet with Dr. Courtney Brown doing blind remote viewing are corroborating the information that Tony Rodriguez is writing about in books such as Series Colony Cavalier, where he's writing about this. So now you got blind remote viewing, and that is very well, remote viewing as a technique via the Stargate program and the CIA. And so a lot of this is corroborated. But then when you look at MK Ultra, okay, MK Ultra is extremely, I mean, here's the CIA FOIA documents from going back to the 50s probably. Okay, so the MK Ultra is very well documented. Then there's a lot of this, the TR3B.
But MK Ultra isn't to do with disclosure, is it? It's to do with controlling the media. No?
Oh, wait, are you talking about FOIA?
Pardon?
What is to do with controlling the media?
MK Ultra.
No, you're thinking of Operation Mockingbird. That's the name of the CIA program to control the mass consciousness through media subversion and taking over news outlets and feeding them fake stories. MK Ultra is German kind of mind control ultra. And this is coming from Dr. Mengele and all their experimentation in the concentration camps, which they carried over to the US with Operation Paperclip and the rat lines. And Werner von Braun was very prominent in the secret space programs, mind you. And also Joseph Mengele, who had a huge affinity for twins. And that's why you get a lot of these testimonies of people surviving these programs and the twins in places like Brazil and Latin America, and also in more contemporary times here in the US around these Montauk projects, which isn't just in Montauk, Long Island, New York. It was under the Presidio in San Francisco, the decommissioned military base there, as well as moved to underneath New Orleans, among other places. And there's loads, heaps, if you will, of documentation out there. You've got Miles Johnston of the Bases Project reporting on this since the 90s with super soldiers, quote unquote, like Max Spears, James Casbolt, Andy Pirro. You've got writers, authors like Kathy O'Brien, who wrote Transformation of America, documenting more of the Earth-based and deep underground military-based projects, as opposed to the space-based, which is where a lot of us are currently going with the movement.
Okay. Look, I get that. And there has been a history over many decades of whistleblowers from the military, from the world of politics, what have you. Famously, what was it? The Canadian Minister of Defense, or was it Foreign Minister? Minister of Defense, I think, was it Harding? Somebody like that? He piped up and said it's all true about, etc., etc. There's loads and loads. But...
No. Buzz Aldrin.
We also have
Chaim
Buzz
Hashad of the Israeli Ministry of Defense or whatever.
But we also know that the mainstream media, for example, that the establishment is a dab hand at misinformation, disinfo. How much of the disclosure movement is...
Well, first of all, none of what I've been saying so far...
How much of a concern is there with that aspect of disclosure?
None of what I've been talking about, whilst we've been going roundabout, as it were, has been in the mainstream media. None.
No, sure, absolutely. But nonetheless...
I mean, I wish they were talking about this. That would be fabulous.
But it's not just the mainstream media that's been manipulated. In the case of the mainstream media, entirely controlled. But the internet as such is not so very different to that. I mean, we are being herded, for example, see the above and all the rest of it. mention it on every show. We are being manipulated. We do know that there's a lot of people that
of
appear
course
to
we
be
are,
on side are
of course we
spreading
are, but then
misinfo
it's on
and
each
stuff.
and every one of us to counter that.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay. And obviously, you know, as bad as TV and print media has been taken over, the internet, due to its very nature, it's much more difficult for them to subvert and control 100%.
Yeah,
And
it is.
okay,
But they have
and
infiltrated practically every group, haven't they, by spreading nonsense and what have you to discredit what is very often genuine truthing, as it were.
Yeah, of course,
So
and that's where you have to use your own
I just wonder how
discernment.
much of that is an issue. Because what I was going to come
Well, it's
on
a huge
to,
issue.
Brian, was... Please, carry on.
It's a ginormous issue, and that's exactly why why we would throw a conference. It's international with 35 plus witnesses, whistleblowers, experiencers, testifiers, because when you are surrounded by these people and their testimonies corroborate, and you can start to access some of their knowledge, it's not hidden knowledge. You can learn how to remote view. No one's stopping you, anybody, the busters of the world, from that. Nobody's stopping them from, you know, doing a quantum hypnosis and healing technique therapy to unlock any regressive memories or to figure out if it's legit for themselves.
Yeah. Okay.
And that, you know, but at a certain point, the narrative, it's like a Kodak picture. You know, at first it's blurry and something's developing and it's a blob, but those days are past. There's enough hard points where, like, okay, there's a car, but there's a UFO in the sky. You know, it's not a blob anymore. We've got enough hard points to hang our hats on that it's like, it's up to you to accept it or reject it. But those people who just blanket say, this is so ridiculous that I refuse to even consider it, you know, I don't know how far it's going to get you in life if your world is limited to what you are willing to accept or not accept.
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, absolutely. There's a lot of testimony which clearly is from people that are very, very qualified at the very least, and there's just a staggering amount of it. One associated question to that, and Greg Rumford sums it up pretty well, but ultimately, isn't all this a distraction from what is happening to us at the moment? Whether true or not,
No.
does it affect our daily
not at all.
lives?
In fact, this is the biggest, most important truth out there. The fact that, you know, if we're still arguing with each other about the intelligence of ETs and if they're here or not, then how are we going to get to all the technology that's been hidden from us? Like, if you think our environment is important and you want clean energy and you realize it's being hidden from us, and disclosure is to unhide exactly what you want, then don't you think disclosure is important, or is that a distraction? If you want medical bed technology, if you want our children to be safe, if you want the trillions of dollars being around the world, not just in the US, UK, Australia, you know, any Western, if not, and Eastern government, you know, being diverted to deep underground military bases per Phil Schneider, who died to get that truth out in 1994, I believe. You know, is it important? This is the most important. Do I see this as a distraction? I'm putting this is my life's work.
Okay, let me put it to you another way. I mean, you're kind of saying that this is spiritually important, yeah? Is it fair to say, to sum up in 2 words?
Absolutely, because this goes along with what we call the ascension.
Well, well, hold on. We'll come on to the deep stuff. But is it not fair to say that this is a distraction from what is going on in our practical daily life, which is whether or not you should be thinking about your practical daily life, i.e. essentially your ego, as much as your spirit is another debate. But is this not a distraction from the Great Reset?
Well, no, that's an absolute trap, because as long as there's no disclosure and we're living these lies, then it's very easy to herd us into this Great Reset. If you care about not being rounded up into Walmart, you know, for the Great Reset,
I hear
then
you.
important
It's a
that we
hell of
have
a learning
disclosure,
curve.
guys.
Hell of a learning curve for 90% of the population, isn't it? If not 95.
It's sad. I
That's
mean,
the
I was
problem.
talking with someone the other day at a
I
Tesla
I think when
supercharger
when I
station.
hear people say, let me just make this point, Brian, because I really do want to. It's very very often people can hear the kind of stuff that you're talking about, but to hear the angle of how can people justify this, etc., how can it be used to create awareness, etc., across the aisle, not just singing to the choir. That's the kind of debate that I like to have on Daily Chaos as well. So, oh no, I've lost my train of thought.
I mean, like, how do we stream it? I mean, we're doing YouTube videos, Rumble videos, we're doing conferences, where we're reaching out to people individually. We're putting out the call to reach out to us and join the movement.
Oh, okay,
Whether
I guess my point, Brian, was is if you look at the relevance of what's going on in people's lives on a day-to-day basis, they at least now do know that their governments, generally speaking, around the world, are not only useless, they are professionally useless. Some people might have even worked out that actually it looks as though they've got designs on the nation's populations to basically ruin them. And
those are the people who can read.
So people now, you can at least take them to the World Economic Forum website and say, research it, and people can go there, and they might protest. Who knows? We might even be able to provoke a general strike or something and make some real change. Whereas with, for example, the disclosure movement, and I'm not discrediting it yet, I'm not doing that, but I'm playing devil's advocate as well. Is it not a little bit like clouding the issue of what people absolutely need?
This is why. Because when you just mentioned WEF, okay, WEF and exposing WEF is part of the full disclosure now movement. Many of these politicians who have done satanic abuse to children are at the WEF. Okay, they were at Epstein Island or Richard Branson's island. Okay, which is the A
Look,
class.
I hear that. I hear that, and again, our audience will know that, and you're welcome to go into that more. And it is terrible, but terribly fascinating as well, frankly. But again, there's so much incriminating evidence about what's going on and the kind of things that people need to do, i.e., to not just rely on voting, but to stand up and to say, and basically to prepare for the worst, as opposed to just hoping, by voting for the lesser of the evil sort of thing. Is it not easier to get people to make a stand with things that are less, if you like, esoteric, that are more tangible to their lives? That's really my point, Brian. I know I'm pressing you on this, but please.
So this is a deal, is the more people realize what is to be disclosed, the more they realize how tangible it is to their lives. I mean, like when I say they're stealing trillions of dollars,
I guess that's my point.
When I say they're stealing trillions of dollars to deep underground military bases, and then people whinge about the economy, it's like, wait a second, I just said trillions of dollars. There's trillions of dollars that were spent in an underground base torturing children, doing reverse engineering experiments of UFOs. That could have been spent building bridges that don't collapse.
Yeah.
Right? It could have been that didn't have to come out of our tax money, and now we could have education, healthcare, when you have disclosure, okay, and you care about our food system, now we know who's buying up our farms and why and what we're putting into the food. But if you don't have disclosure, you don't have any of that. So now people are saying, well, Brian, all I care about is putting food on my table for me and my family. Never mind the mRNA technology and anything else in your food, because disclosure is a distraction. So like, I really, it just makes me feel sick in the pit of my stomach, that type of reaction, because that's where it's like, people say what you don't know can't hurt you. I'm on the other side of that. No, what you don't know not only can hurt you, it's killing you every day, putting chemtrails in the air and trying to kidnap your children. So is that relevant to your life, or do you just want to talk about the 9 to 5?
You know, I agree with you, Brian, but I think the average Joe out there, as soon as you go off the piste, if you like, of their frame of reference, there's a bloody great big avalanche.
So this is a deal.
Of cognitive dissonance.
So right, because what you're speaking to, Ollie, I think this is questions of the movement. Okay. And if you're saying, well, hey, Brian, you're for the disclosure movement, but the minute you start talking the devil in the details, people think you're cuckoo. Then how much of a movement are you going to have? So my answer to you is this.
I didn't quite say that, but
I summed up the argument in a nutshell.
Yeah.
No,
it's you paraphrase.
We're polite company.
Carry on.
It's cricket. So
it's cricket.
They what I was going to say is oh geez, I just
it's all right. Hey, look, no.
Oh, yeah, I got you.
That.
I got you. This is how it works. First, you start with the leadership, the most advanced elements out there. Then you link up with those people who should be with the advanced leadership, but they're lost and they're trying to recover their memories. They're fragmented. They're targeted individuals. They're usually in bad health. They're broke. You know, they've got handlers still harassing them. Some of them are still being taken in these programs, abducted to this day. You link up with all of them. Okay. As you link up with them, and now you get a much more coherent framework of what's going on, you find all your natural allies. Yeah. It's like the people that you're talking about, Brian, how are you going to win over Joe cognitive dissonance? That's like number 9 in the line. Okay, so you got to understand there's a stepwise process. There's a method to our madness. It's not overnight. And there's really a lot of organizing methodology here.
Okay.
And that's what I personally bring to the movement, among others.
I appreciate that. And that was an elongated conversation about that. But I just think it's an angle that is rarely covered. So I appreciate you covering that up. So let's assume that people are open-minded, and this lot certainly are. Just how much of a problem do we have, in your opinion, in terms of behind the curtain? Because, I mean, we often talk about, so what is the cabal, who runs the world, all that sort of stuff. And then we often hear that, no, it isn't Klaus Schwab, who apparently is standing down, by the way, as governor at the WEF. It's been announced today. A few weeks ago, it was said that he was dead, but apparently not. But anyway...
You know, I'm laughing because it was reported in alternative news outlets that he was captured several weeks ago. Yeah. And now that they have a public announcement that he's stepping down, it warms the cockles of my heart.
Well, if it was announced that he was somehow abducted or captured or what have you, it was also announced a couple of weeks ago, so that he'd had a heart attack and was in hospital. Did you hear about that?
Well, of course, because the other side has to muddy the waters, because to anyone who has discernment, to anyone who has discernment, and you watch the royal family melting away, you watch Hollywood melting away, you watch CEO land melting away, it looks kind of mysteriously like these people are being taken off the board, doesn't it? That's so strange.
It is. It's very curious. So, funny. But my query is, behind the curtain, what some people say is that the Schwabs and all the rest of it, and certainly the politicians, they're just lieutenants to fascism. And then these kind of arch fascists like Schwab or Gates or Soros are kind of leading the human pile, if you like. But they're answerable to some kind of psychotic ET. What's your take on that? What's the deal?
Well, there's a couple levels there in that pyramid. Right. Okay, you've got the corporate types, and then above them, kind of like the more esoteric priest figureheads like Klaus Schwab, who's the figurehead.
Likes wearing a frock.
And then you've got what's known as the among there's like the 13 families, the Carnegies, the Kennedys, the Vanderbilts, the Fricks, the Astors. But then behind them, you've got the secret hidden 13 Illuminati families. That's like the Orsinis, the Merovingians, and I forget it, but they're more the Italian, the Borgias, those names coming back to ancient Rome. And then above them, you've got the SSP 13 secret families, which include like the Arasaka Corporation, for example.
Right.
Okay, and so there are levels, and then above that you've got the who would have been who used to be, they were the Anunnaki. Okay, that's where they come from, and then they are under the reptilians, the Draco. Okay,
Right.
and then now the Draco and the Orions, who are kind of jointly running this whole sector of the Milky Way together. The Orion Empire is gone. The Dracos are now being pushed out by the Galactic Federation types, if you will. And that's my understanding of the exopolitics of the situation. And they're waiting for us to get our act down here on Earth together to realize that they're even intelligent ETs. My God. Much less that they're in our atmosphere and around us
Brian,
and everywhere.
You take my point that it's easier to make the point about Agenda 2030, for example, than it is about this. It is.
Well, sure, but it's all lumped together.
That's not.
It's like
yes.
What's happening is you're kind of picking and choosing your woo. And for me, it's like if the woo is credible woo, I don't care how bad it is, how terrible, how nasty, how unfreaking believable it is. I will go with it because that's where the investigator takes me, and that's where humanity's liberation takes me.
So in terms of that hierarchy, is that the reason that we have the problem, which is what I see as encroaching totalitarianism, and the means that they're using is this Great Reset, for example? Is that something to do with these 13 families? I mean, with the hierarchy, rather. And
to answer you,
gone
yes,
wrong.
because when you look at it, these 13 families, they all worship these dark, negative, AI, Luciferian spiritual elements, right? We battle not flesh and blood, but powers of darkness in high places.
To you, is what disclosure is about, is getting at that, essentially.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, that's a full part. Yeah.
Right. That's the ultimate part, isn't it? If you could do that. But how can you be sure?
It's like saying,
sure?
to Joe Sixpack out there, hey, Joe Sixpack, you say you want the truth, but I'm going to gatekeep and tell you can't handle the truth because I know, and Ollie here knows, it's so beyond the pale, it's so woo-woo that you aren't able to handle it. And therefore, we're not going to share that with you. Okay. And to me, that's a very irresponsible, counterproductive, potentially playing into the hands of the enemy point of view to try to protect the perceived fragile ego of Joe Public and Jane Public. And I refuse to do that.
No, I hear that.
Because if fewer people had been doing that, fewer people would have been jabbed, and there'd be a lot more children running around right now.
Yeah. No, I completely hear. I'm just debating it because it is so often the problem with our world, isn't it? It's actually willful ignorance, more so these days with so much stuff, isn't it? So much stuff is exposed these days. Let's take a few comments. We Fat Slug says the upper echelons of the elite will admit to there being one overarching presence. It's there, it directs, but no one knows who it is. Two Guns Pete is having a chat with Simon Gold Eagle. God bless him. Old bloodline families, says Alphabet Cat, possibly going back to Babylonian times. The Black Nobility, says Coronian. I was going to ask you, actually, the Black Pope. Is the Black Pope an alien? Is he reptilian? Is that the deal?
Okay. So most likely the Black Pope, because all the popes, the white, the black, and the gray, are part of this ninth circle satanic cult, and they all engage in child worship. I would hazard to say in my analysis that the Pope is a human with probably more than the average share of reptilian DNA. And then by participating in the satanic black rites, that's to better pair themselves with this dark reptilian energy even further. So that would be more of like a hybridized dark human, if you will.
That's the Pope you're talking about, or the Black Pope, or the Grey Pope, or all of them.
Yeah, because they all participate in these satanic rituals to further merge their energy and give up their light soul energy while bringing in and incarnating darkness.
I have to say, I mean, apart from the images of, for example, that hall in the Vatican shaped like a serpent, and the backdrop to the Pope's throne in that hall is horrific, and it looks just completely satanic. Apart from stuff like that, the way the guy dresses and all the rest of it, the main problem I would see with this Pope and other popes is the fact that they don't speak out about what we do know is the absolute abject evil going on in this world.
Why would they?
Yeah, no, exactly. I agree with you. But I just to say that it seems to me that they're exposed from the point of view of common logic, quite aside from the kind of research that you need to have an understanding of the kind of things that you have, such as these different popes
Ollie,
and what have you.
To our credit, we're dealing with two fundamentally different forces. You and I are coming at it trying to, whether or not brute force logic plus intuition plus ET guidance and source guidance. Okay. You've got something called religion. And so the Catholic Church has how many officially counted adherents? 1 billion plus. So to all the people under the guise, not only are what you and I are talking about would be their equivalent of Satanism, okay, they're literally kissing the ring of the people who are abducting their children.
Yeah.
And they're donating.
I mean, it is so bloody obvious in modern culture, isn't it? I mean, you only need to stick on MTV for, about 1.5 songs, and you've got satanic iconry or, but I don't know, some latest Pop Tart who's pretending to be a baby getting shagged. I mean, it's
right.
mad.
It stands for Masonic
Eurovision,
TV.
for crying out
MTV
loud.
Masonic
The
TV,
Eurovision Song Contest
TV.
was
That's
just
why.
one long satanic ritual.
Yes,
No,
because
no?
it's called Masonic TV. That's why. That's
Yeah.
what the M stands for.
Yeah,
And that's why they broadcast out of many Masonic halls. Masonic
do you think
Concert Hall. That's where Jimmy Kimmel out of LA broadcasts out of.
Do you think that people are sanitized to they don't feel anything? They've lost their empathy.
So there's that stepwise process, Ollie.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Remember,
it's part of the process.
We went back.
no?
We've got the most advanced.
Dehumanizing. Sorry, carry on, please.
So it's a numbers game, okay? What you're talking about is it's like that 20% bottom denominator of the least awake and aware people who are drinking the Kool-Aid, who until the spaceships are landing like in each of our town squares, they're not going to believe it. That's 20%. Okay. And the thing is, when I get onto these shows and as an organizer before all this stuff, just talking about corruption of government, just ET government corruption, they refuse to believe it. But we never bothered talking to those people. Those are the same people who are just as likely to walk by your outreach table and shout curse words at you and tell people, don't stop, these people are a psyop or a fraud. Okay, so just abandon this right off that 20% and don't talk about them anymore, please.
Okay. Something
and
we
next,
touched. Yeah, okay, carry on. Yeah, carry on, please.
Okay. And above that 20%, you've got the next 40% or so. Okay, that's your 60% right there. That 40%, that's your middle ground that you're fighting for. Okay, we are fighting for them. The other side is fighting for them. Okay, and then that. Well, maybe there's that bottom 30%. Shit, I'm giving our society way too much credit. There's a bottom 30%.
I hear what you're saying, though. It's a good analogy. Yeah, I hear that.
But it's up to that 90% line. That's what we're fighting. This whole time, it's been less than 1 out of 10. Right now, I would say we're getting to about 2.5 people out of 10, with more people starting to wake up.
Yeah.
Okay, the hard way. And that's where we're at right now.
Okay. Something we touched on earlier, Brian, and I just wanted to come back to it because it was such a big event, and it was covered up so quickly, or at least it was shoved right. It was basically ignored by the mainstream media so bloody quickly. And it seems to me It's one of the biggest events that's happened in my lifetime, actually, and that's what happened in Maui. Assuming that people share this show to people that don't know about any of this stuff, could you please explain to those that don't know what happened in Maui, what you believe happened in Maui, and with particular attention to the kind of technology that I think you would say has been hidden from us?
Yeah. So last summer, the tragedy of Maui was that much of the western portion of that island, and particularly the town and the people there, Lahaina, got burnt up. And to those of us in the know, this looks just like what happened in Paradise, California, in parts of Oregon, and in Canada, where you have these extremely intense fires that look nothing like wildfires, global warming or whatever notwithstanding. We're talking about things where metal is getting melted into molten metal, which does not happen in your typical forest fire, and yet plastics right next to those metals are relatively unscathed. Where objects that are a certain blue color, which in the chroma scale is apparently this 666 number, it's like a psychic blue, that is impervious to the wavelength. And so here's some science, the frequency of directed energy weapon laser that they're using. And anyone who wants to search it, Boeing and Lockheed Martin and Raytheon for years already have been bragging about their space-based and airborne mounted weapons, laser-based weapons platforms. And if you look at certain alternative media, it looks like the so-called white hats have taken out 2 out of these 3 planes. Now, as to why this was burnt out, we go to things like Agenda 23. These areas are very, very beautiful natural areas that are very, very highly coveted by the elites, not just from a monetary...
into the ghettos, into the cities.
Right.
Literally Agenda 2030.
So while hurting the people into the ghettos...
But also very valuable land in Maui, Hawaii, that bit of Hawaii. Very, very valuable.
Yeah.
No?
Not only is it valuable
we've only got literally 2 or 3 minutes, Brian. Those weapons, DEWs, direct energy weapons. So you mentioned the blue. Basically, there were roofs on houses, what have you, in Maui. They weren't affected. They weren't burnt at all. President Biden, I heard him twice. This wasn't AI video. This was Biden saying how these people needed to paint their houses blue. Stuff like that. Mad. I mean, incredible. Did you hear that, Biden say that, Brian?
No, but what that tells me is that sounds like a clone malfunction where he got the intel and needs to share it with his people, and he's blabbing it on to the public because that's like clone number 5. That's the Archuleta Mesa Dulce base's like greatest success is like the Biden clones, by the way.
We're losing Revolution Radio now. Just stay with us, Brian. But Rev Radio, God bless you. I'll see you next week. And that's been Brian Tseng. Full disclosure now. See you next week, Rev Radio.
Are we still on other platforms, Ollie?
Right. Okay. Sorry. That's Rev Radio gone. Yeah, we're still on Unity just for another couple of minutes. But
okay, because I have an analysis of the Hawaii fires if you want to know why they did
Thank you.
them.
Yes, please.
Okay. Basically, it's not just the real estate value of these properties. Places like Hawaii are magical. They're on ley lines. There are places where Lemuria, the last vestiges of Lemuria, are on the Atlantis lie. Okay. And a lot of the bloodlines of these native children's are very highly valued by these elites who want the bloodlines of these children, the natives who have Lemurian DNA in some cases. That's why they're native that area, okay, for rituals and then also genetic super soldier type purposes and programs. Okay, so when they did the directed energy weapons, it's multiple. They're opportunists. They had multiple objectives. One, burn out the area, bring in the wealthy, chase out the poor, but also call off school early that day, herd off the kids in the buses, and then disappear many of those buses. And that's where the people are talking about the missing children. Okay, so and then I've learned from people remote viewing and who may know better that some of these kids may have been put onto tankers, carriers, and hauled off or sent underground XYZ.
Brian, we literally have got seconds. I know you can't hear it, but we've got the outro going on in the background. It's absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on Daily Chaos. Brian Tseng.
Thank you. Check out fulldisclosuremovement.org, please.
Fulldisclosuremovement.org. You're going to have to come back on soon. So hopefully Laura Eisenhower is going to come on soon.